Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. Jaime En Fuego here, welcoming you to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment. Once again, call me Fuego for short. And this is a first-time review after a second look at a film that came out earlier this year that I was not particularly fond of, Cathy Yan's Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of Fabulous Harley Quinn, whatever the hell, the very lengthy, unnecessarily titled film was. And then they ended up, after a very poor initial box office outing in its opening weekend, changing it from, Birds of Prey to Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey or whatever, just for rebranding purposes, hopeful that more would flock out to the theaters. And that didn't happen, unfortunately. But, also starring Jeremy Smollett-Bell, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Rosie Perez, and Ewan McGregor as none other than Gotham's villainous Black Mask. And so this is one that I did not like upon initial viewing, and now that as of today, Tuesday, May 12th, it is finally out on proper home release after spending a few weeks on premium VOD. And so I was like, I need to give it a second chance, see if my gripes about it are still there. Maybe I would appreciate certain aspects of it more, so on and so forth. And regrettably, that is not the case. The stuff about this film that I just wasn't enthralled by, was kind of off-put by, it's all still there, and yet it still does have its merits from certain technical standpoints and from a few of the performances in here. But I'm just not the biggest fan of the Harley Quinn character, and that stretches all the way back to the Mr. J stuff, with Bruce Timm and her creation for Batman the Animated Series back in the 90s. She has definitely become, more of her own character over time and development through the comics and stuff. And I know a lot of people are raving about the DC animated series that's on the Disney streaming service and stuff, with all the comics and a few exclusive shows and stuff. That's where you can find Doom Patrol. That's where Swamp Thing was, and the Titans and a few other things. So I've heard good things about the animated show. I've heard it takes her mania and ridiculousness to amusing degrees, but once again, even with the few episodes of that I've watched that were okay, I'm just not the biggest fan of the character, and so that preloads me in a lot of ways to really not enjoy this film as much. And that's not to say that I particularly enjoyed Suicide Squad either, but Suicide Squad in its opening weekend made $100 million more than this film did back in 2016. And that was a film that came out, granted, it didn't have any significant competition in its opening weekend, but it was, it was in early August, and it still had a lot of those bigger blockbusters hanging around from the summer and still in theaters. So it still had significant competition of the residual variety from the summer blockbuster season in 2016, and still made over $700 million globally. This made not even a third of that globally. And so what happened, especially for a film that came out February 7th, was in that sweet spot of sorts in early February, the Deadpool and, stuff like Get Out and Split. And films have found significant Skrilla in this particular window that used to be the dumping ground. And so this was, it was uncontested in its opening weekend as far as anything formidable, and yet still barely mustered $33 million and was considered a significant disappointment, especially with the buzz of the Harley character and, Margot's presence, and yet the thing is, she was solid, I thought, in the previous film, in Suicide Squad, okay? I thought she had a much more subdued dynamic to a degree, and I thought maybe that was a little bit better. I know she was working through things, and so she was still dealing with the abusive relationship with Jared Leto's Joker, and that was, as I said, not a perfect film. The Victoria's Secret underwear model who played Enchantress, I don't like Kara, whatever, anyway, but, I thought our Aussie dude's Boomerang was solid. I don't know, that movie, it's really not very good, but it's not as overblown and overdone and just ridiculously lacking in charm, at least for me personally. And I have a lot of friends that enjoyed this movie, on both sides of the gender spectrum, okay? And yet, it was too much for me. It was too slick. There was no edge to it. Making an R-rated film, with added violence and, you know, with dropping of the F-bombs and trying to get edgier. Edgier doesn't always mean better. And this was a film that was trying to recreate the Deadpool formula, and I actually thought that even Deadpool 2, trying to recreate the Deadpool formula, did not do anywhere near as good a job. It was almost like the lightning in a bottle sort of situation, okay? Not every R-rated superhero film can be the first Kick-Ass, or can be the first Deadpool, or can be Logan, you know? It's really tough to get that proper balance, and granted, there's really no humor whatsoever in Logan, to be fair, but, you know, a lot of these over-the-top R-rated films have tried to combine the comedic and just the grotesque with the over-the-top violence and stuff like that. And not that this film is really that insanely violent, aside from a few scenes. You know, one involves someone's face getting cut off. There's another character that gets blown up near the end of the film, without spoiling stuff. But, I mean, really, it's a lot of the time, it's like, you know, knives through necks and stuff. And then there's also scenes that are inexplicably not as violent as you would imagine them to be. Like, and all of the action is very slickly done, I'll give it that, but it still felt too cartoony, and not, I mean, it's nothing that I haven't seen lately in stuff like John Wick films, or, I mean, even going a little further back to like some of the Bourne movies and whatnot. I mean, I don't know, it's really tough to impress with slick action, you know, well choreographed and all this stuff at this particular point, because, I mean, between, you know, both the Raid films and the precedence has been set pretty high, and while it's not plotting bad action, it didn't wow me, you know? I mean, the police station infiltration scene about halfway through, where Harley's going around with the glitter bombs and stuff like that, I honestly feel like maybe that scene was scripted before they had decisively, you know, just settled on the fact that this was going to be an R-rated film, you know? And then they can maybe pepper in the scenes to be, especially with, you know, pickups or with reshoots or something. Now, I haven't gone extensively, you know, to follow that process. This is just pure waxing off the top of my head, everybody. But I feel like there were a lot of significant segments in this where it felt like this could have been trimmed down to a PG-13. And with Suicide Squad having been PG-13, maybe it would have done significantly better at the box office. Who the hell knows? But then again, Deadpool and Logan both made a lot of money for Fox. So Warner Brothers is hopefully banking on that to be the case here. But once again, R-rated doesn't necessarily mean better. And yeah, I mean, the glitter bomb stuff, and then also even the fight in the the evidence lockers and stuff, it's all fine, you know? The fight at the end in the, you know, carnival circus area, it's fine, it's fine. It's not bad, it's not poorly choreographed or poorly done, but it's nothing that you're gonna be like, damn, that was dope, that was awesome. It's all just, it's solid, but nothing that's gonna raise the level or set a new benchmark. I mean, this film, you know, for how great it's shot, though, it still is a little overblown, too slick, overdone, and as I said earlier, it doesn't have the edge that you would want with Gotham. But then again, this is Gotham through the eyes of Harley Quinn, you know, and it's, you know, New Zealand and Canada shot as opposed to, you know, something else. And I don't know where they shot, you know, Suicide Squad, maybe in Atlanta, somewhere else, but it just definitely didn't feel like the grit of Gotham. Even when they tried to do the night shots and stuff in the third act, it still just didn't feel as of that ilk and of that, you know, just genuine manner to me, as somebody who, you know, grew up with the Batman comics of the 90s when I was reading stuff like, you know, Nightfall, Night Quest, Night's End, and then segueing through that into, you know, things like, you know, Cataclysm, and, you know, even the War Games stuff, and Hush is another great story arc, and then even the New 52 relaunch with, like, you know, Scott Snyder and, you know, various others. It's, you know, certain Batman books have a different vibe to them, though, so I must concede that, you know, and the costuming is terrific. I mean, you know, Margot gets to wear all kinds of great costumes throughout, but her performance for me, as far as all of the ladies in this, is the one that I just... Her mania feels more like acting as opposed to, like, genuine performance in a lot of ways, as opposed to, I don't know, maybe another Aussie actress like Samara Weaving, for instance, from, you know, Guns Akimbo and, you know, Mayhem, and even The Babysitter and some of the stuff that she has done. And they do look a little similar, and they're both, you know, of that same age range and Aussie, you know, Pretty Little Blondies and stuff like that, but Samara's madness seems a little more genuine to me, but that's just personal opinion. Rosie Perez, it's nice to see her in a film again, you know, as somebody that enjoyed her going all the way back to like White Men Can't Jump and, you know, being on Jeopardy on that and, you know, various other roles in like the 80s and 90s. But yet she's very much playing a caricature, and they call attention to it, which is fine, but, you know, that sort of meta-ness didn't generate the sort of laughs, at least for me personally, that I know the screenwriters were intending. You know, for me, the Black Canary was my favorite. I thought that her performance and the nuance of going from, you know, Black Mask's, you know, singer to driver to, you know, stuff that happens in the third act with her, you know, questioning her role with him as she gets more entangled with these girls, including, you know, the little pickpocket who is really the crux of the conflict in this, you know, having stolen this diamond and everything that happens with that. If you've seen the film, you know, but yeah, I thought Black Canary was the strongest performance of the ladies in this personally. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is good to a point, but I felt like her backstory was really, it's glossed over. You get some flashbacks and whatnot, but I mean, really, all of the development of these characters, they felt rather thin to me, unfortunately. I mean, really, the one who has the most significant arc is obviously our title girl, Harley Quinn, with the breakup of the Joker, the destroying of the Acme chemical plant, having everybody after her, after, you know, Mr. J is no longer there to just protect her ass and let her run wild and break people's legs in, you know, Black Mask Club and barf in bags. And that opening scene, it's just so overdone. And that whole montage before we even get the full title credit of everything she does, from stealing the drinks and the roller derby stuff, it was just so on the nose and just felt so, I don't know, forced and disingenuous to a degree, at least for me. And once again, art is subjective, personal opinion, peeps, but, and I felt the same way during one musical cue, and don't even get me started on the music. Much like the Suicide Squad score, and they tried recreating it in a lot of ways in this, and, you know, I'm not your toy, I'm not just one of your, the score is just not for me, you know, that sort of, like, you know, modern edge pop kind of thing, you know, a little bit of, it's like hip pop, I guess I would probably put it. It's really not my jam, man. That's just personal opinion, once again. But when they veer from it, you know, we get into like weird recreations of other songs, and then, you know, when we do have a more popular song thrown in, like Heart's Barracuda during this fight sequence, it felt as on the nose and just like, hey, look at this, you know, and doesn't this fit so perfectly? It's like, it almost fits too perfectly, guys. You know, it very much gave me the same vibes as during Captain Marvel, where she is engaging in this fight scene, and they're playing No Doubt's I'm Just a Girl, and it's just too much, man. It's too much. It's like so obvious that it's almost just like aggravating, and it's like it fits too well, you know. And so yeah, I mean, and a lot of the humor, as I mentioned, doesn't necessarily hit the way that I wanted it to. There's this bit with like an egg sandwich at one particular point, and it's like a recurring thing, and, you know, playing the Marvin Gaye, it's either Marvin Gaye or no, it's not Marvin Gaye, it's another love crooner whose name is avoiding me, and I'm gonna get Barry White. Yeah, I'm gonna get so much shizzle for not knowing that right off the bat, guys. But when you're talking about this off the top of your head, I mean, there's so many names to remember and all that other stuff. But I mean, I will definitely give props to Ewan McGregor and his over-the-topness in this particular performance. But even a lot of scenes, he's deliberately chewing the scenery and he's overdoing it. Like, everything in this is very much like the, I don't know, like the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner, just, you know, I don't know, man, Merry Melody is overdoing it to such a cartoonish level. And I think maybe in, you know, an animated setting, like what so many people are digging in that realm, it works a little bit better. But at least for me here, it just felt too silly to me. You can have, I mean, Kick-Ass and the original Deadpool movie are probably two of the best for me that found that edge along with the wackiness and the over-the-top humor and stuff like that. I think when you go maybe too far with one or the other, it's a tough balance though. It's a balancing act, you know, it's a juggling act of sorts. And, you know, and not to go after, you know, Yan the director, you know, but she obviously had, you know, very talented people with her in the post-production, you know, with all of the, you know, different, oh, here's this character and here's what this character did bad that pissed off, you know, that, you know, why they could be pissed off at Harley and everything. I don't know, but maybe in the hands of a more experienced director, I don't know, maybe that's unfair for me to say. She had just one feature under her belt previous to this, and that's why they brought in, I believe it was the John Wick guys, to help her with some of the action sequences and whatnot. But really, for me, it's more so the tone of the script than anything else, that, and also just the pre-programmed bias of not digging the Harley character that much, that, yeah, I don't know, man. Even on a second viewing, this still is not for me, and yeah, I guess it is definitely set in stone after a second viewing, and yeah, it is what it is. But if you liked it, to each your own, as I will often say, and don't just beat me to pieces if my opinion on this doesn't correlate with yours. I'm gonna give this 2 out of 5 Fuego Fireballs, at least for yours truly. This is a Malo film. It would probably be more a 2.5 star, but if I had to go either a 2 or a 3, I have to side with Docio. So there you have it, everybody. I've been Jaime En Fuego. Y'all can find moi on all social media sectors: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, which is where you're watching me right now. This is my outlet for more of the nerdtastic stuff, but also the more serious stuff. So some days you could see a Star Wars review of some sort, and then other days you could see like art house indie drama. I do a nice variety of both. I sprinkle in some comedy, some action, sometimes gravitating closer to the dramatic thriller stuff, stuff that might go to my other YouTube channel, which is a lot bigger. That's youtube.com/thehorrorshow channel. I've been doing that for about 6 years at this particular point. Myself, Cecil, Susie, Robert, and Marsha. Trailer reactions, film reviews, video game let's plays. I do a weekly Stephen King show, so lots of awesomeness there. We have like 33,000 subscribers there almost now. I am about 10 away from hitting just 1,000 here, but if you like, share, subscribe, it means a hell of a lot, because once you break that 1K, so many other creator tools are afforded to you here on YouTube. So hey, if you do so, you are appreciated. So in any event, until the reel of Ka comes around once more, everybody, hasta luego, cinemigos, constant viewers and readers alike, because I do a little bit of both here. I hope that we get to share more of this film palaver sooner rather than later, and until that instance occurs, obviously, stay indoors and watch more movies, but I don't know if I'd recommend this one. Probably not. Sorry.